What if everything you perceive isn't what it seems? Imagine for a moment that you're dreaming. In your dream, everything feels real. You see vivid colors, hear familiar sounds, and even feel emotions. Then you wake up, and suddenly, the world you were just in disappears, as if it never existed. This brings up an interesting question. What if everything you perceive in your waking life is just another version of that dream? How can you know if anything you experience is truly real? This kind of question is not new. It's one of the oldest and most puzzling inquiries in philosophy. Centuries ago, the French philosopher René Descartes raised a similar question in his famous dream argument. He wondered, how can we be certain that what we call reality isn't just an elaborate dream? His point wasn't that we're definitely dreaming right now, but that the sensations and perceptions we trust so much might not be reliable. Then what is reality? At first glance, reality might seem obvious. It's everything around us. The trees, the sky, the people, the things we touch, see, and hear. But when we look closer, defining reality becomes more complicated. Philosophers often say that reality is everything we experience, see, and know exists. This means reality includes everything you personally experience, as well as the things that exist outside your awareness, like distant galaxies or microscopic particles. But here's the tricky part. How do we know that what we perceive matches what actually exists? Our senses are our only tools for experiencing reality, yet senses can deceive us. Think of a mirage in the desert, where the water you see is just an illusion caused by light bending in the heat. This leads to a deeper question. Is reality something objective, existing independently of us? Or is it subjective, shaped by how we perceive it? To understand this better, let's go over Descartes' dream argument again. Imagine you're sitting in a chair right now, watching this video. How can you be certain this isn't a dream? In dreams, we often think we're awake. We can even feel pain, joy, or fear as if everything is real. But then we wake up and realize it was all an illusion. Descartes argued that if our senses can trick us in dreams, they might also trick us in waking life. What if our entire experience of the world is just a kind of illusion? Descartes didn't stop there. He thought that a powerful being, he called it a bad demon, might be tricking us, making us believe in a fake reality. This might sound far-fetched, but the idea isn't just a philosophical exercise. It pushes us to think critically about how we know what we know. Descartes' ultimate goal was to find something certain, a foundation for knowledge that couldn't be doubted. You might wonder, why does it matter if reality is real or not? I still have to live my life, right? While that's true, questioning reality helps us explore deeper truths about ourselves and the world. It challenges assumptions. What if the things we take for granted, like time, space, or even our own identity, aren't as fixed or real as we think? It sharpens critical thinking. By questioning the nature of reality, we learn to think more carefully and avoid being easily fooled. And also, it connects philosophy, science, and everyday life. Philosophers, scientists, and even artists have all explored this question in different ways, and their insights often overlap. These days, Descartes' dream argument feels surprisingly relevant. Consider the idea of virtual reality. With the help of advanced technology, we can now create immersive worlds where people can walk, talk, and even feel as if they're in a different place. As these technologies improve, the line between real and artificial experiences becomes blurrier. Similarly, some scientists and philosophers have suggested that our universe might be a kind of simulation, a highly advanced version of a computer program. This idea, called the simulation hypothesis. If we can't distinguish between simulated and real experiences, how can we trust our perceptions of reality? Our brain often interprets visual information in ways that don't match the physical world. For example, the Rubin vase illusion can look like either a vase or two faces depending on how you view it. Studies have shown that people can remember events that never actually happened, simply because their brain fills in the gaps. In a lucid dream, people are aware they're dreaming but can still interact with the dream world as if it's real. So, does everything you perceive make sense? Descartes showed us that this is a question without easy answers. But maybe the goal isn't to solve the mystery of reality, it's to appreciate it. By questioning what we see, hear, and feel, we open ourselves to new ways of thinking and understanding. Whether reality is a dream, a simulation, or something beyond our comprehension, one thing is clear. Asking these questions makes life richer, more thoughtful, and infinitely more interesting. Let's start with a simple idea. Reality is the foundation of everything we experience, believe, and do. Whether we're solving scientific mysteries, thinking philosophical questions, or navigating daily life, Our perception of reality shapes our actions and decisions. But reality is not always what it seems. Understanding its nature isn't just a theoretical exercise, it's a practical and deeply human quest with far-reaching implications. People have always tried to understand the world around them. Whether through science, philosophy, or art, humans are curious creatures constantly searching for answers. In ancient days, we looked to myths and stories to explain the world. Over time, philosophy and science emerged as tools to uncover deeper truths. This ongoing journey, spanning millennia, reveals just how central the search for reality is to who we are. Science is one of humanity's greatest tools for understanding reality. Its goal is to uncover the laws that govern the universe and explain phenomena in a systematic way. Science relies on observations, measurements, and experiments to understand reality. However, this process is not always straightforward. For example, the discovery of quantum mechanics in the 20th century revealed that particles can behave unpredictably, depending on whether they're being observed. This challenged long-held notions of a fixed, deterministic reality. Scientific theories, such as Newton's laws or Einstein's theory of relativity, are models that describe how reality works. Yet no model is perfect. Newton's laws work well for everyday situations, but break down when dealing with extreme conditions like black holes or the speed of light. Science teaches us that our understanding of reality is constantly evolving. What we see as true today might be refined or replaced tomorrow. Philosophy asks fundamental questions about reality that science alone cannot answer. It digs into issues of existence, knowledge, and meaning, providing a broader framework to explore what reality is and why it matters. Philosophers like Aristotle and Heidegger studied the nature of being and existence. They sought to understand what is real versus what is merely a concept or illusion. The ancient Indian philosophy argues that the material world is an illusion and ultimate reality is beyond human perception. How can we trust our senses or beliefs? Philosophers like Descartes and Kant explored how humans acquire knowledge of reality. Beyond what reality is, philosophy also asks why it exists. Is there an inherent purpose to reality or is it random? Sartre and Camus argued that humans create meaning within an indifferent reality, while religious philosophies often view reality as divinely purposeful. Philosophy helps us confront existential questions. Why are we here? What's the purpose of life? It provides tools to critically examine assumptions, make better decisions, and find personal meaning in the vast complexity of reality. Understanding reality is not just for scientists or philosophers. It directly impacts how we live and interact with the world. People make decisions based on what they believe to be real. A farmer plants crops based on their understanding of the seasons. A doctor diagnoses a patient based on the perceived symptoms and medical knowledge. Misunderstandings or false beliefs about reality can have serious consequences. Rejecting scientific realities like climate change can lead to harmful inaction. Some aspects of reality, such as money or societal norms, are created and maintained by collective belief. The value of paper currency depends on everyone agreeing it has worth. If that belief disappears, so does its value. Social media creates digital realities that can influence emotions, relationships, and even politics, showing how reality is increasingly mediated by technology. Being mindful of reality helps individuals navigate life's challenges. Accepting the reality of impermanence can make us cherish relationships and moments. Understanding human biases like optical illusions or cognitive distortions helps us make more informed choices. Humans have always tried to make sense of reality, often blending curiosity with creativity. Before science, ancient people used myths to explain natural phenomena. The Greek god Zeus was believed to control lightning, while the Norse myth of Yggdrasil described the universe as a giant tree. These stories reflected an attempt to find order and meaning in the chaos of existence. Over time, humans moved from mythological explanations to systematic observation and reasoning. Ancient Greek philosophers like Thales proposed that water was the fundamental substance of reality, representing an early step toward scientific thought. The scientific revolution marked a major shift, with figures like Galileo and Newton seeking objective truths through experiments. Today, our quest to understand reality spans fields like cosmology, neuroscience, and more. We explore questions as vast as the origins of the universe and as intimate as the workings of the human mind. Reality may never fully reveal all its secrets, but the journey to understand it enriches our lives, sharpens our minds, and deepens our appreciation for the mystery of existence. Throughout history, we have always been obsessed with what the nature of reality really is. They sought to understand the world, not just as a physical space, but also as a realm filled with meaning, mystery, and order. While each culture developed its own perspective, their insights remain profoundly influential today. The ancient Egyptians had a unique view of reality, deeply rooted in their beliefs about harmony and balance. For them, reality was not just a collection of physical objects and experiences, but a carefully maintained system governed by universal principles. The ancient Egyptians believed that Ma'at was very important. Ma'at was a concept that stood for truth, balance, order, and justice in their world. It was at the core of their beliefs and way of life. Egyptians believed that the universe was inherently chaotic. The gods, led by the sun god Ra, had imposed order on this chaos. However, this balance was fragile and had to be actively maintained. Ma'at governed not only natural phenomena like the flooding of the Nile, but also human behavior. Every individual had a responsibility to uphold Ma'at by living truthfully, respecting social norms, and performing rituals to honor the gods. Egyptians saw reality as cyclical, much like the recurring flood of the Nile or the daily journey of the sun across the sky. For example, the Osiris myth symbolized the cycle of death and rebirth. Osiris, the god of the afterlife, was killed by his brother but was resurrected by his wife Isis to rule the underworld. This story reflected the belief that even in destruction, order could be restored. Reality extended beyond the physical world into the afterlife. The Egyptians believed that the soul was judged after death by weighing the heart against the feather of Ma'at. A balanced heart ensured a blissful afterlife, while imbalance led to destruction by the devourer Ammit. This belief in moral balance shaped how Egyptians approached daily life, reinforcing their understanding of reality as a delicate equilibrium. Ancient Hindu philosophy examined deeply into the nature of reality, presenting a vision that remains one of the most intricate and profound in human thought. At its core lies the concept of Maya, or illusion, and Brahman, the ultimate reality. According to Hindu, what we perceive as the world, its forms, objects, and experiences, is not the ultimate truth. Instead, it is illusion, a kind of veil that obscures the true nature of existence. Maya creates the illusion of separateness, that individuals, objects, and events are distinct and independent. In reality, everything is interconnected. Beyond the illusion of Maya lies true reality, the infinite and eternal essence of the universe. Brahman is formless, unchanging, and beyond human perception. Hindu philosophy describes Brahman as the source and sustainer of all existence. The concept of the soul is central to Hindu philosophy. It is believed to be identical to Brahman. But under the influence of illusion, individuals perceive themselves as separate. The ultimate goal of life, according to Hinduism, is to transcend this illusion and realize the unity of illusion and reality. This awakening, known as moksha, frees one from the cycle of birth and death. Hindu philosophy encouraged deep introspection through practices like meditation and yoga to pierce the veil of Maya. Texts like the Bhagavad Gita offered practical guidance for seekers striving to understand reality. Ancient Greece became a hub for intellectual exploration, with philosophers like Plato, Aristotle, and Socrates questioning the nature of existence and reality. Among their many contributions, Plato's Allegory of the Cave stands out as a powerful metaphor for the human struggle to perceive true reality. Plato describes a scenario where prisoners are chained inside a dark cave. They face a wall and can only see shadows cast by objects passing in front of a fire behind them. For these prisoners, the shadows are reality. They have no knowledge of the fire or the objects creating the shadows. One prisoner escapes, ventures out of the cave, and he sees the world as it truly is, realizing that the shadows were mere illusions. Plato used this story to illustrate his theory of forms. He argued that the material world we perceive is like the shadows in the cave, imperfect and incomplete representations of the true eternal forms that exist in a higher realm. For example, a tree in the material world is an imperfect version of the form of a tree, which exists as a perfect, unchanging concept. Plato believed that understanding reality required intellectual and spiritual growth. Just as the prisoner had to leave the cave and face the blinding sunlight, individuals must question their assumptions and seek higher truths. Education, philosophy, and critical thinking were seen as tools to help people escape their metaphorical caves and perceive reality more clearly. Plato's ideas profoundly influenced Western thought, laying the groundwork for debates about reality, perception, and knowledge that continue today. Despite their differences, these perspectives share a common thread. They all acknowledge that reality is not always what it seems, and that understanding it requires effort, insight, and, sometimes, a willingness to challenge what we take for granted. Human understanding of reality has evolved dramatically over centuries, shaped by our endless curiosity about the nature of reality. Each era brought unique ways of understanding the world, influenced by religion, philosophy, science, and culture. The medieval era, roughly the 5th to 15th centuries, was deeply shaped by religious interpretations of reality. In Europe, Christianity dominated intellectual and spiritual life, while in other parts of the world, Islam, Hinduism, and other traditions guided people's understanding of existence. One of the most influential thinkers of the medieval period was Saint Augustine of Hippo. He believed that reality was fundamentally shaped by divine order. God was the ultimate truth and the source of all existence. The material world, while real, was secondary to the spiritual realm. He argued that human reason was limited and often clouded by sin. True understanding of reality could only come through faith and divine revelation. Augustine's concept of the city of God contrasted the fleeting, imperfect reality of earthly life with the eternal, perfect reality of God's kingdom. Medieval society saw reality as a fixed hierarchy, often referred to as the great chain of being. God was at the top, followed by angels, humans, animals, plants, and inanimate objects. This structure reinforced the idea that reality was divinely ordered and unchanging. Thinkers like Thomas Aquinas bridged the gap between faith and reason. Aquinas argued that human reason could partially understand God's creation, but that divine revelation was still necessary to grasp ultimate truths. Aquinas' work, especially his integration of Aristotelian philosophy into Christian theology, became a cornerstone of medieval thought, influencing how people understood the physical and metaphysical aspects of reality. For the average person, reality was inseparable from religious beliefs. Events like plagues or natural disasters were often seen as manifestations of God's will or punishment for sin. Scientific inquiry was limited, as questioning the divine order could be viewed as heresy. The Enlightenment era, around the 17th and 18th centuries, was a radical departure from the medieval worldview. Thinkers began to challenge religious dogma and sought to understand reality through reason, observation, and empirical evidence. Enlightenment thinkers believed that human reason was the key to unlocking the mysteries of reality. They argued that by using rational thought and scientific methods, humanity could uncover universal truths. The Enlightenment prioritized empiricism, the idea that knowledge comes from sensory experience and experimentation. This approach transformed the study of nature, leading to groundbreaking discoveries. Francis Bacon developed the scientific method, a systematic process of observation, hypothesis, and experimentation, which became the foundation for modern science. Enlightenment thinkers like Voltaire and David Hume criticized the Church's monopoly on truth and questioned long-held religious explanations of reality. This period saw the separation of science and religion, with science focusing on the material world and religion retreating to the spiritual domain. Advances in fields like astronomy, biology, and physics reshaped humanity's understanding of reality. Isaac Newton's laws of motion provided a mathematical framework for understanding the physical universe. Discoveries in anatomy and medicine revealed the workings of the human body, challenging traditional beliefs about health and illness. The shift in perceptions of reality during the Enlightenment is beautifully illustrated by the story of Galileo Galilei and his advocacy for the heliocentric model of the universe. For centuries, the dominant view of the cosmos was geocentrism, the belief that the Earth was at the center of the universe. This model, supported by thinkers like Ptolemy and endorsed by the Church, aligned with the religious notion that humanity occupied a special place in God's creation. In the 16th century, Nicholas Copernicus proposed a radical idea. The sun, not the Earth, was the center. This heliocentric model challenged the Church's teachings and the geocentric worldview. Using his newly improved telescope, Galileo made observations that supported the heliocentric model. He discovered the moons of Jupiter, proving that not all celestial bodies orbit the Earth. He observed the phases of Venus, which could only be explained if Venus orbited the Sun. He noted the rugged surface of the moon, contradicting the belief that heavenly bodies were perfect and unchanging. Galileo's findings were groundbreaking but controversial. The Church saw his work as a direct challenge to its authority and the biblical view of reality. In 1616, the Church declared heliocentrism heretical. Galileo was eventually tried by the Inquisition and placed under house arrest for the remainder of his life. Despite his persecution, Galileo's work laid the foundation for modern astronomy and physics. His story symbolizes the Enlightenment's struggle to replace dogma with evidence-based understanding, forever altering humanity's perception of reality. Ontology is one of the most important branches of philosophy. It asks fundamental questions. What is existence? What is the essence of things? How do things relate to one another? Through centuries of exploration, philosophers have used ontology to frame how we understand ourselves and the universe. So ontology. It is a central branch of metaphysics, the philosophical study of the fundamental nature of reality. Ontology focuses on the nature of being. What does it mean for something to exist? Categories of existence. What kinds of things exist? Essence and existence. What makes something what it is, and how does it persist through time? In a sense, ontology underpins all philosophical inquiry. Whether discussing ethics, science, or art, we first need to ask, what is the nature of the things we are studying? Ontology helps us frame reality in a structured way. By identifying what exists and how things interact, it lays the groundwork for disciplines ranging from physics to theology. Ontology provides a lens through which we question our assumptions about reality and broaden our perspective. Aristotle, one of the most influential figures in Western philosophy, made groundbreaking contributions to ontology. His work established a systematic approach to understanding being and existence that continues to resonate today. Aristotle introduced the concept of substance, which he saw as the fundamental reality of any entity. For Aristotle, everything in the world is a combination of matter, the physical stuff that makes up an object, and form, the defining characteristics or structure that give an object its identity. A wooden chair is made of wood, which is matter, but its form, its shape, and purpose as a chair makes it a chair rather than just a pile of wood. To explain the existence of things, Aristotle developed the concept of the four causes. Material cause, what something is made of. Formal cause, the structure or essence of the thing. Efficient cause, the agent or process that brings it into being. And final cause, the purpose or goal of the thing. This framework not only defined objects but also linked their existence to purpose and function, making Aristotle's ontology deeply practical. Aristotle also viewed reality as hierarchical, with beings arranged according to their complexity and purpose. At the lowest level were inanimate objects. Plants and animals followed, as living beings with specific purposes. Humans occupied the top, endowed with reason and the ability to contemplate existence itself. Aristotle's approach laid the foundation for scientific inquiry and influenced centuries of thought in both Western and Islamic philosophy. Fast forward to the 20th century, and there is Martin Heidegger, a German philosopher whose work redefined ontology for the ages to come. Heidegger's ideas were revolutionary, challenging traditional assumptions and emphasizing the lived experience of being. Heidegger began with a fundamental question: what does it mean to be? He believed that previous philosophers, including Aristotle, had taken the concept of being for granted without exploring its true nature. Heidegger sought to uncover the essence of being by examining how humans exist in the world. Heidegger introduced the term Dasein, meaning being there, to describe the human experience of existence. For Heidegger, Dasein is not just a passive observer of reality, but an active participant in it. He argued that we exist in the world, meaning our being is inseparable from our relationships, environment, and context. For example, a hammer is not just an object but something that gains meaning through its use that is for building. Similarly, a person's existence is defined by their interactions, choices, and purpose within the world. He called this inauthentic existence, where people conform to societal norms without questioning their purpose. To live authentically, Heidegger urged individuals to confront their mortality and embrace their finite existence. By doing so, they could find meaning and take ownership of their lives. Understanding reality is closely tied to understanding how we acquire knowledge. This exploration falls under epistemology, a branch of philosophy concerned with the nature, sources, limits, and validity of knowledge. Epistemology asks fundamental questions. What is knowledge? How do we know what we know? Can we truly know anything? These inquiries are essential because knowledge shapes our perception of reality and informs every decision we make. First of all, we need to define knowledge. Philosophers often describe knowledge as justified true belief. Belief. To know something, you must believe it. Truth. The belief must correspond to reality or facts. Justification. There must be good reasons or evidence to support the belief. For example, if you believe the Earth orbits the Sun, and that is belief, and this is scientifically proven, which is called truth, and you understand the evidence behind it, and it is called justification, then you know this fact. Knowledge isn't just an abstract concept, it directly influences how we perceive and interact with the world. Knowledge acts like a filter, shaping what we notice and how we interpret it. Someone with medical training might look at a sick person and immediately think of symptoms and treatments, while someone without such knowledge might just see illness. Knowledge is often shaped by the cultural and historical context in which we live. In the Middle Ages, the geocentric model was considered true knowledge, but this perception changed with the scientific revolution. Our ability to make decisions, innovate, and solve problems relies on what we know. From ancient agriculture to modern technology, knowledge has always been the foundation of human progress. There lies a great debate. How do we acquire knowledge? Two dominant schools of thought, rationalism and empiricism, offer two different types of answers. Rationalism asserts that knowledge comes primarily from reason and innate ideas rather than sensory experience. Rationalists believe that some knowledge is inherent in the human mind at birth. For example, concepts like mathematics or logic are not learned from experience but are part of our mental framework. Rationalists argue that reason is the most reliable path to knowledge because the senses can deceive us. Descartes' famous phrase, "I think, therefore I am," also explains the rationalist approach. He doubted everything, including the reliability of his senses, and concluded that the only thing he could know with certainty was his own existence as a thinking being. Descartes used logical reasoning to build a foundation for knowledge, arguing that the mind has innate ideas, such as the concept of God or mathematical truths. These ideas are more reliable than sensory data, which can be misleading. For example, optical illusions. Mathematics and logic fall in the category of rationalism. A triangle always has three sides. This truth does not depend on sensory experience. If all humans are mortal and Socrates is a human, then Socrates is mortal. This reasoning is universal and independent of observation. Rationalism highlights the limitations of sensory perception, but rationalism overlooks the importance of experience. How can we understand the color red or the taste of salt without experiencing them? Empiricism, in contrast to rationalism, asserts that knowledge comes from sensory experience and observation of the world. Empiricists believe that humans are born without innate knowledge. Instead, the mind starts as a blank slate, and all knowledge comes from experience. Empiricism relies on sensory data, what we see, hear, touch, taste, and smell, to construct an understanding of the world. Sensations are external experiences, such as seeing a tree or feeling the wind, and reflection are internal experiences, such as thinking or remembering. Locke rejected the notion of innate ideas. He believed that concepts like morality or mathematics develop over time through learning and experience. But empiricism struggles to explain abstract concepts like justice or infinity, which cannot be directly observed. While rationalism and empiricism appear to be opposing viewpoints, many philosophers have attempted to bridge the gap. Existential questions are among the most profound inquiries humans have ever asked. These questions dig into the essence of our existence. Why are we here? Does reality have inherent meaning, or is it something we create? This topic connects philosophy, psychology, and daily life, exploring the nature of purpose, identity, and the relationship between the self and the world. Does reality have inherent meaning? One of the central debates in philosophy is whether the universe has a built-in purpose, or if humans must create their own meaning. Existentialism, a philosophical movement that gained prominence in the 20th century, explains that meaning is not preordained, but constructed by individuals. Jean-Paul Sartre believed that life has no inherent meaning. For him, humans exist in a world without pre-existing purpose, but this freedom allows them to create their own meaning. Sartre argued that humans are not born with a predetermined purpose. Instead, our actions and choices define who we are. For example, a knife is made with a specific purpose to cut, but humans must figure out their purpose through living. Sartre emphasized that humans are radically free to choose their path in life. However, this freedom comes with a heavy responsibility. Every decision we make shapes our identity and the world around us, leaving us with no one to blame but ourselves. This freedom often leads to anguish, a feeling of dread when confronting the vast possibilities of life. Sartre urged people to live authentically, accepting this responsibility and creating their own values. Sartre rejected the idea that reality inherently makes sense. Instead, he saw it as a blank canvas upon which individuals must paint their own meaning. This perspective challenges people to take control of their lives rather than rely on external forces for purpose. Albert Camus explored similar themes but added his own unique perspective. Camus is best known for his concept of the absurd, the conflict between humanity's search for meaning and the universe's apparent indifference. Camus believed that humans are wired to seek purpose and order in a universe that offers none. This clash creates the absurd, a fundamental disconnect between our desires and reality. A person might spend their life pursuing happiness or success, only to realize that life's randomness can disrupt these plans at any moment. Camus argued that instead of succumbing to despair, humans should revolt against the absurd. This revolt doesn't mean rejecting life, but embracing it fully despite its lack of inherent meaning. For Camus, life is worth living when we accept its absurdity and choose to live with passion and freedom, without appealing to a higher purpose or destiny. Camus didn't see reality as inherently meaningful. Instead, he encouraged people to find joy and purpose in their experiences, relationships, and pursuits, even if these lack ultimate significance. Camus illustrated his philosophy with the story of Sisyphus, a figure in Greek mythology condemned to roll a boulder up a hill only for it to roll back down for eternity. Camus argued that Sisyphus represents the human condition. By embracing his task with resolve and passion, Sisyphus defies the absurd and creates his own meaning. The Ship of Theseus is an ancient philosophical thought experiment that raises questions about identity, change, and continuity. It's particularly relevant to existential questions about whether things remain the same over time, even as their components evolve. Imagine a ship that has its wooden planks replaced one by one over time. Eventually, every single part of the ship is replaced. The question is it still the same ship? The Ship of Theseus suggests that reality may not be a fixed entity, but a process of constant change. For humans, this raises questions about personal identity. Are we the same person we were years ago, despite physical and psychological changes? Whether we see the Ship of Theseus as the same ship depends on how we define identity. This aligns with Sartre and Camus, who argued that meaning is subjective and constructed by individuals. Just like the ship, humans are constantly changing, physically, emotionally, and intellectually. Existentialists would argue that we must actively shape our identity and purpose amidst this flux. A company may change all its employees, policies, and products over decades. Is it still the same company? A person who has completely transformed their habits, beliefs, and outlook on life might wonder, am I still the same me? At its core, the question of whether reality inherently makes sense ties back to how we perceive and construct meaning. The ship's identity, like our own, is not given but created through choices and definitions. We are responsible for deciding whether we see it as the same ship. The absurdity of the ship's paradox reflects life's broader absurdity. Rather than seeking a definitive answer, we should embrace the paradox and find our own meaning within it. The Ship of Theseus teaches us to accept change and ambiguity. Reality doesn't have to be static or clear-cut to be meaningful. Instead, meaning arises from how we engage with these complexities. Physics is one of the most profound tools humans have developed to understand reality. Over centuries, it has evolved from simple observations of the natural world to a sophisticated framework explaining the universe's deepest mysteries. By examining reality through the lens of physics, we can explore how our understanding has shifted from the predictable and deterministic views of classical physics to the strange, counterintuitive findings of quantum mechanics and the flexible constructs of Einstein's relativity. Classical physics begins with Isaac Newton, who laid the foundation for understanding the physical world with his revolutionary work, Principia Mathematica. Newton's laws of motion introduced a deterministic view of reality, meaning that the future could be predicted with complete certainty if one knew the present state of an object, its position, velocity, and forces acting upon it. If you know the speed and direction of a cannonball, you can calculate exactly where it will land. Newton proposed that the same physical laws govern everything in the universe, from the motion of a falling apple to the orbits of planets. His law of gravitation explained how massive objects attract one another, offering a unified framework for understanding celestial and terrestrial phenomena. Newton's worldview likened the universe to a giant clock. Every event could be traced back to a cause, and every future event could be predicted if all variables were known. Newtonian mechanics painted a picture of a stable, predictable, and orderly reality. This framework dominated science and philosophy for over 2 centuries, shaping our understanding of the world as logical and governed by unchanging principles. In the early 20th century, cracks began to appear in the classical view of physics. Experiments at the atomic and subatomic levels revealed behaviors that Newtonian mechanics couldn't explain. This led to the development of quantum mechanics, a branch of physics that fundamentally reshaped our understanding of reality. Quantum mechanics challenges the idea that reality exists independently of observation. In the famous double-slit experiment, particles, like electrons, behave as both waves and particles, but their behavior changes depending on whether or not they are being observed. This implies that the act of observation influences the nature of reality itself, a concept that still puzzles scientists and philosophers alike. Particles can exist in multiple states simultaneously, a phenomenon called superposition. For example, an electron can be in several locations at once until it is measured. Werner Heisenberg's uncertainty principle states that we cannot know both the exact position and momentum of a particle at the same time, introducing fundamental limits to our knowledge of reality. Quantum entanglement occurs when particles become interconnected in such a way that the state of one particle instantly affects the state of another, no matter how far apart they are. Albert Einstein called this spooky action at a distance, as it seemed to defy the classical notion of causality and locality. Quantum mechanics shattered the deterministic view of reality. Instead, it revealed a probabilistic and interconnected universe where certainty gives way to possibility and observation shapes existence. While quantum mechanics redefined the small-scale universe, Albert Einstein revolutionized our understanding of the large-scale cosmos with his theories of special relativity and general relativity. In Newtonian mechanics, time and space were seen as absolute and unchanging backdrops to the events of the universe. Einstein's theories showed that time and space are not fixed but are interconnected as a single fabric called spacetime, which can stretch, bend, and warp. According to special relativity, time slows down for objects moving at speeds close to the speed of light. This phenomenon, known as time dilation, has been experimentally confirmed with fast-moving particles and synchronized atomic clocks. Similarly, objects appear shorter in the direction of motion when traveling at relativistic speeds, a concept called length contraction. In general relativity, Einstein proposed that gravity is not a force, as Newton believed, but a result of the curvature of space-time caused by massive objects. This idea explains phenomena like the bending of light around stars, gravitational lensing, and the existence of black holes, regions where space-time is so warped that nothing, not even light, can escape. Einstein's theories showed that reality is far more dynamic and interconnected than previously thought. Time and space are not rigid, they adapt and respond to energy and matter. This challenges our intuitive understanding of reality as stable and uniform. Classical physics supported the idea of an objective, knowable reality, aligning with rationalist philosophies. Quantum mechanics and relativity introduce ambiguity and subjectivity, aligning more closely with existential and postmodern thought. These advancements challenge our place in the universe. We now know that our intuitive understanding of reality, based on everyday experiences, is only a small slice of a much larger, stranger reality. Have you ever wondered whether the world you see, hear, and touch is actually real? What if it's all an illusion, a highly sophisticated computer simulation? This idea, known as the simulation hypothesis, challenges our most basic assumptions about reality. The hypothesis gained mainstream attention thanks to philosopher Nick Bostrom, who proposed a logical framework for considering whether advanced civilizations might create simulated worlds indistinguishable from reality. According to the simulation hypothesis, what we perceive as reality might actually be a virtual construct created and controlled by an advanced intelligence. Just as humans create video games and simulations, a far more advanced civilization might have the technological capability to create a simulation so detailed and immersive that its inhabitants wouldn't know it wasn't real. The simulation hypothesis gained serious attention with the publication of Nick Bostrom's 2003 paper, Are You Living in a Computer Simulation? Bostrom argued that at least one of the following three statements must be true. Human civilizations never reach a level of technological advancement capable of creating simulations of reality. This could be due to self-destruction, like nuclear war or environmental collapse, or limitations in technology. And next, advanced civilizations lose interest in running simulations. Even if civilizations achieve the necessary technology, they might prioritize other pursuits over creating simulated worlds. We are almost certainly living in a simulation. If advanced civilizations can and do create simulations, and these simulations are indistinguishable from reality, then it is statistically more likely that we are living in one of these simulations than in the base reality. Bostrom's reasoning is based on probability. If a single advanced civilization could create billions of simulations, the odds of being in the one true reality, as opposed to one of countless simulations, are extremely slim. While the simulation hypothesis cannot be conclusively proven, several scientific and philosophical ideas lend some credibility to it. Today, video games like The Sims or Minecraft allow users to create immersive virtual worlds. As technology progresses, virtual reality and artificial intelligence are making simulations increasingly lifelike. Imagine a future where these technologies advance exponentially. A civilization just a few hundred or thousand years ahead of us could potentially simulate entire worlds. Moore's law predicts that computing power doubles approximately every 2 years. While this trend may eventually slow, It demonstrates how rapidly technology has advanced in just a few decades. In quantum mechanics, space and time appear to have a minimum measurable scale, much like the pixels in a digital image. Some proponents of the hypothesis argue that this granularity of the universe could indicate that reality is a digital construct. Many scientists marvel at how mathematical principles so perfectly describe the workings of the universe, from the motion of planets to the behavior of subatomic particles. If the universe is a simulation, it would make sense for it to be governed by mathematical rules, much like a computer program. Not everyone agrees with the simulation hypothesis. While it has intriguing aspects, it remains a speculative theory. Astrophysicist Neil deGrasse Tyson has expressed openness to the idea, suggesting there's a better than 50% chance that we're living in a simulation. Tyson points to the rapid advancements in computing and our own ability to simulate worlds. If humans can already simulate basic forms of life and environments, a far more advanced civilization could create a simulation indistinguishable from reality. He notes that simulations could be created for purposes like studying history, entertainment, or even testing different scenarios. While Tyson finds the hypothesis plausible, he admits there's no definitive way to test or prove it, making it an intriguing but unresolvable question for now. Some scientists and philosophers reject the simulation hypothesis, citing several key challenges. Some people argue that simulating an entire universe, down to every atom, would require an inconceivably vast amount of computational power. Even with advanced technology, the resources might be prohibitive. While the hypothesis is interesting, skeptics point out that it lacks empirical evidence. No experiment has conclusively suggested that we're living in a simulation. Philosopher David Chalmers points out that assuming we're in a simulation reflects an anthropocentric view, one that overemphasizes human-like intelligence as the driving force behind existence. If we're in a simulation, what about the reality above it? Is that reality also a simulation? This could lead to an endless chain of simulated realities, which complicates the hypothesis. If the simulation hypothesis is true, it raises profound philosophical questions. What is reality? Does it matter whether we're in a simulation if our experiences feel real to us? Some argue that the distinction is irrelevant if we cannot escape the simulation. If our universe is programmed, does that mean our choices are predetermined by the code? Or do we have genuine free will within the simulation? Who created the simulation and why? Are they benevolent, indifferent, or even aware of our existence? If we create our own simulations in the future, what ethical obligations would we have to the conscious beings within them? The world around us is full of sights, sounds, smells, textures, and tastes. But have you ever stopped to wonder how you perceive this reality? The truth is, your experience of the world isn't a direct reflection of reality, but a construction by your brain. The brain takes sensory inputs, signals from your eyes, ears, skin, and other senses, and creates a cohesive picture of the world. While this process is incredibly sophisticated, it's also surprisingly fallible. Optical illusions, misheard words, or even false memories remind us that our perception of reality isn't perfect and can be easily distorted. How the brain constructs reality? The brain relies on information from the 5 senses: sight, sound, touch, taste, and smell. These sensory organs don't send complete images, sounds, or feelings to the brain. Instead, they send electrical signals through nerves, which the brain interprets. The brain doesn't passively receive sensory data. Instead, it actively processes and combines this information, filling in gaps and making educated guesses. This happens in different specialized areas, like visual cortex interprets shapes, colors, and motion. Somatosensory cortex processes touch, temperature, and body position. Auditory cortex decodes sounds and speech. The brain integrates this sensory data into a coherent model of reality, allowing you to navigate the world seamlessly. Despite its sophistication, the brain's construction of reality isn't perfect. It's prone to biases, assumptions, and errors, often leading to distorted perceptions. Even your memories of events can distort reality. Psychologists have discovered that it is possible for people to form false memories, recollections of events that never actually occurred. This phenomenon occurs when individuals are influenced by suggestions or manipulated by doctored images, leading them to believe in the reality of these fictitious experiences. For instance, a person might vividly remember a childhood vacation they never went on, simply because they were shown photoshopped pictures or repeatedly told about the trip by others. These false memories can feel incredibly real and detailed, demonstrating the malleability of human memory and the powerful impact of suggestion on our recollections. Memory isn't like a video recording. It's a reconstruction that the brain pieces together, often influenced by emotions, suggestions, or gaps it fills in. The brain's primary goal isn't to show you the world as it is, but to give you the tools to survive and thrive. This means reality is incredibly detailed, but the brain filters out most of it. You only focus on what's relevant, like a nearby sound that might indicate danger. The brain constantly predicts what will happen next based on patterns. For example, when you hear a door creak, you might expect someone to enter. The brain adjusts its interpretation of sensory data based on context, which is why a shadowed object might look darker than it really is. A viral photo of a dress sparked a global debate. Was it blue and black or white and gold? The brain interpreted the lighting in the image differently based on individual experiences with light and shadow, leading to varying perceptions. Some people who lose a limb continue to feel sensations in the missing limb. The brain's map of the body doesn't immediately update after an amputation, causing it to misattribute sensations. If your reality is just a construction of your brain, can you ever experience the true nature of the world? Philosophers have debated this for centuries. Understanding how the brain constructs reality can help us address conditions like hallucinations and schizophrenia, where the brain misinterprets sensory signals, and sensory impairments like blindness or deafness, which alter how people perceive the world. Recognizing the brain's limitations can help us question our assumptions about reality. Are you interpreting someone's actions based on your biases? Is your memory of an event shaped more by emotion than fact? Does reality have an inherent purpose? One of the most profound and enduring questions humanity has asked is whether reality has an inherent purpose. Do the universe and our existence have a built-in goal or meaning, or is it all random and purposeless? Philosophers, scientists, and theologians have wrestled with this question for millennia. Exploring this question opens the door to teleological arguments, existential debates, and a spectrum of beliefs ranging from grand cosmic designs to the idea that life is ultimately meaningless. Before we begin, let's clarify what we mean by purpose. Purpose refers to the idea that reality, life, or existence has a goal, meaning, or final destination. It suggests that there's a reason why things are the way they are, and that they're moving toward a specific outcome. This idea can take different forms: cosmic purpose, a grand design guiding the universe; or individual purpose, a unique role or mission for each person; or maybe purpose as a construct, meaning created by humans rather than inherent in the universe. Teleological arguments suggest that everything in the universe has a purpose, an end goal toward which it is directed. Aristotle, one of the most influential ancient philosophers, proposed that everything in the universe has four causes: material cause, what something is made of; efficient cause, what brings something into being; formal cause, the structure or design of a thing; final cause, the purpose or goal of a thing. For Aristotle, the final cause was the most important. He believed that everything in nature exists for a reason. For example, the heart's purpose is to pump blood. The purpose of an acorn is to grow into an oak tree. In Aristotle's view, even the cosmos had a purpose: to achieve a state of perfect motion and harmony. Many religious traditions align with teleological thinking. According to Christianity, the universe is designed by God, and humans have a divine purpose to fulfill. In Hinduism, the concept of dharma suggests that individuals and the universe have specific roles and responsibilities to maintain cosmic order. And in Islam, life is a test, and the ultimate purpose is to serve and worship Allah, leading to eternal life. In the 18th century, theologian William Paley compared the universe to a watch. He argued that just as a watch's intricate design implies a watchmaker, the complexity of the universe implies a designer. This argument is often used to suggest that reality has a purposeful design. While teleological arguments offer a vision of reality with inherent meaning, other perspectives challenge this idea. Nihilism is the belief that life and reality lack any inherent purpose, value, or meaning. This philosophy became prominent in the 19th century, largely through the works of Friedrich Nietzsche. Nietzsche declared, "God is dead," suggesting that traditional sources of meaning, like religion, had lost their power in the modern world. Without a cosmic purpose, nihilism confronts us with the unsettling idea that existence is a random accident. While nihilism sees the lack of meaning as despairing, Albert Camus proposed a different approach in his philosophy of absurdism. Camus argued that humans have an innate desire to find meaning, but the universe is indifferent and silent. This creates an absurd conflict. We seek purpose. The universe offers none. Camus used the Greek myth of Sisyphus, condemned to push a boulder up a hill only for it to roll back down as a metaphor for life. While the task is pointless, Camus suggested that we can find joy and freedom by embracing the absurd and living fully in the moment. Science has also weighed in on the question of purpose, often leaning toward a purposeless view of the universe. The universe began with the Big Bang, an inflation that led to the formation of stars, galaxies, and eventually life. Life on Earth emerged through evolution by natural selection, a process driven by random mutations and environmental pressures. These explanations suggest that reality and life are the result of natural processes, not design or purpose. Some scientists argue that the universe appears to have purpose because we exist to observe it. This idea is called the anthropic principle. The universe's conditions, like the force of gravity, seem fine-tuned for life. However, this doesn't mean the universe was designed for us. It's simply that only a universe with these conditions could support observers like us. The Fermi paradox questions why, in a universe so vast, we haven't detected other intelligent life. If the universe has an inherent purpose, why does it seem so empty and indifferent? This paradox challenges teleological views and supports the idea that purpose might be a human construct rather than a cosmic truth. Even if the universe lacks an inherent purpose, many thinkers argue that humans can create their own meaning. Existentialist philosophers like Jean-Paul Sartre believed that purpose isn't given but created. Sartre famously said, "Existence precedes essence," meaning we exist first and then define our own purpose through choices and actions. Psychiatrist Viktor Frankl, a Holocaust survivor, argued that even in the face of immense suffering, humans can find purpose. He wrote, "Life is never made unbearable by circumstances, but only by lack of meaning and purpose." For Frankl, meaning comes from creating something, experiencing love or relationships, finding strength in suffering. Understanding reality often requires looking beyond theoretical concepts and engaging with real-life experiences. People's extraordinary encounters, like near-death experiences and hallucinations, provide powerful insights into how our brains interpret, or sometimes misinterpret, the world around us. These experiences challenge our understanding of what is real and offer fascinating glimpses into the limits and possibilities of human perception. Near-death experiences occur when individuals come close to dying or are revived after clinical death. These experiences often include vivid and unusual phenomena, feelings of peace and detachment from the body, seeing a bright light or entering a tunnel, meeting deceased loved ones or encountering spiritual entities. A life review, where moments from one's life replay in rapid succession. For centuries, NDEs have intrigued scientists, philosophers, and spiritual thinkers. The recurring themes across cultures suggest that these experiences might reflect something universal about human consciousness or reality itself. Many interpret NDEs as evidence of an afterlife or a deeper spiritual reality. Religious traditions often see these experiences as proof of the soul's journey beyond the physical world. For example, Tibetan Buddhism describes visions during Bardo, the state between death and rebirth, which resemble NDE accounts. Neuroscientists argue that NDEs are the result of brain activity during extreme stress or oxygen deprivation. Major concepts include hypoxia. Lack of oxygen in the brain may trigger hallucinations and a sense of euphoria. Or temporal lobe activity associated with memory and perception may become hyperactive, causing vivid imagery and a sense of familiarity. Or maybe DMT release. Some suggest that the brain releases dimethyltryptamine, a powerful hallucinogenic compound during moments of trauma or near death. One of the most well-known near-death experiences is by Pam Reynolds, an American singer. In 1991, she had a special brain surgery. During the surgery, doctors cooled her body to a nearly dead state and her brain stopped showing any activity. However, Pam later said that she could see her own surgery from above, hear people talking, and saw a tunnel of light. Pam's story is still a big topic of discussion. Some people think her experience happened because of how her brain was working even when it seemed inactive. Others believe it shows that our mind can work outside of our body. Charles Bonnet syndrome occurs in people with vision loss who experience vivid visual hallucinations. These hallucinations often involve detailed images of people, animals, or patterns. Despite their vividness, sufferers usually recognize them as unreal. These experiences show how easily our perception of reality can be altered or manipulated. Optical illusions demonstrate how our brains can misinterpret visual stimuli. Hallucinations and NDEs suggest that even under extreme conditions, the brain continues to create experiences, whether they align with external reality or not. Both phenomena highlight the unresolved mystery of consciousness. How does the brain produce such vivid experiences? Do these experiences reflect internal brain processes, or could they offer glimpses into another layer of reality? Human curiosity about reality often manifests in the form of paradoxes and thought experiments. These intellectual tools challenge our understanding, forcing us to question the very fabric of existence. Two of the most famous examples are the brain in a vat scenario and Schrödinger's cat. Each pushes the boundaries of philosophy and science, inviting us to explore questions about consciousness, perception, and the nature of reality itself. At its core, the brain in a vat thought experiment asks a profound question. How do you know that your experiences are real? Imagine a brain removed from a human body and kept alive in a vat of nutrient-rich fluid. Electrodes connect the brain to a supercomputer that sends signals identical to those it would receive if it were in a body. These signals simulate a complete reality: sights, sounds, smells, and touch. To the brain, everything seems normal. It feels like it's living in the world. But in truth, it's experiencing a simulated reality controlled entirely by the computer. This idea traces back to René Descartes' skepticism in the 17th century. Descartes famously asked, "How can I trust my senses if they might be deceived by a powerful demon?" His solution was the statement, "I think, therefore I am." This meant that while everything else could be doubted, the act of thinking proved his own existence. The brain in a vat scenario modernizes this question using technology. It asks, if our senses can be so thoroughly manipulated, can we ever trust our perception of reality? What is the difference between a real experience and a simulated one if they feel identical? The paradox of Schrödinger's cat, proposed by physicist Erwin Schrödinger in 1935, is a thought experiment that explores the strange and counterintuitive nature of quantum mechanics. Imagine a cat placed inside a sealed box with a radioactive atom that has a 50% chance of decaying within an hour, a Geiger counter to detect the decay, a vial of poison that will be released if the Geiger counter detects radiation. At the end of the hour, the atom is either decayed or not, which means if the atom decays, the poison is released and the cat dies. If the atom does not decay, the poison remains sealed and the cat lives. However, quantum mechanics introduces a twist. Until someone opens the box and observes the cat, the atom exists in a superposition, both decayed and not decayed. This means the cat is simultaneously alive and dead. Does the act of observation collapse the superposition and determine reality? Schrödinger's cat highlights how reality at the quantum level behaves differently from our everyday experiences. It suggests that at a fundamental level, reality might not be definite until observed. This paradox questions whether consciousness or measurement plays a role in shaping reality. In the Copenhagen interpretation, observation causes the wave function to collapse into one definite state. Others, like the many worlds interpretation, suggest that both outcomes occur but in parallel universes. Classical physics assumes a deterministic universe where every event has a clear cause. Schrödinger's cat demonstrates the indeterminacy of quantum events, challenging deterministic views of reality. Both the brain in a vat and Schrödinger's cat ask fundamental questions about reality. What is real? The brain in a vat scenario explores whether experiences alone are enough to define reality. Schrödinger's cat challenges whether reality exists independently of observation. The brain in a vat cannot differentiate between simulated and real experiences. In Schrödinger's cat, reality itself remains undefined until it is perceived. Both experiments reveal how our perceptions and scientific models may be limited in capturing the full complexity of existence. If reality doesn't make sense to us, is it because we're asking the wrong questions?